To our next caller on the Mighty K. Dewey Car Care Right Talk Lines. Bob, Cape May, what's happening over there, Bob? How's the fruit fly situation?
Oh, just inundated this year, Jake, and you know it's
climate change. It's climate change,
Bob. Well, I fancy myself a big game hunter, and those little rascals, they are so hard to get rid of. But, you know, I had a great solution. And it's not working that great this year. And
now, when you mean solution, do you mean what you mix together to get rid of them, or problem solver? Solution can mean two things.
The vinegar, that helps, but you put a piece of fruit, that rotting fruit or whatever, in your sink.
You mean if I could put Joe Biden in my sink, that would work?
Boil water, and that had worked for years for me. This year, it's just not working. I guess they're getting smarter.
Well, you know why? Because Joe Biden is a piece of rotting fruit, so I guess they've become immune to rotting fruit. That's what's happening.
I guess so. Jake, just real quickly, you started the show with the threats against MAGA supporters, and I sent you a letter that my sister-in-law got in Devon, Pennsylvania. Big Trump flag in front of their property, and their neighbors got the same letter, okay, threatening harm to their cat, to their properties, in the colder winter in the future. You're in our database. And she called the postal inspector, and the postal inspector told her, this kind of activity, this kind of voter intimidation, it's coming only from the left. Not coming from our side.
Right, and that's what I tried to point out, Bob, in the open to the program this morning. They threaten us with violence. They commit violence. They commit murder, attempted murder against President Trump. They will stop at nothing. They will not relinquish power without a fight. We have to understand that.
Correct, and you know, of course, they call us the fascists. They call us the
isn't that amazing? Unhinged.
Right, we're
dangerous, right?
Correct.
Ultra mega semi-fascist, all that kind. Now remember, after Joe Biden's red speech is when that incident happened in North Dakota back in 2022. 5 years, and he's already, I guess, eligible based on what I saw for why do I just draw a blank there? For whatever they you understand what I mean when he's eligible. Parole. Why am I drawing a blank on that?
Oh, parole. Yeah,
he's already probably eligible.
Yeah, that's insane, Jake. But you know, I guess it happens all the time, doesn't it?
It does.
The leftists get away literally with murder. I mean, look at the rioters after George Floyd. Look what the havoc they raised, the billions of dollars of damage they caused.
Well, and guess who bailed them out of jail, Bob? Who bailed them out of jail?
We know,
Kamala
Kami.
You better believe she did. But she's a changed woman. That's what she says. Bob, listen, let me get to some other calls because we don't take calls for the next 2 hours. I did get that letter, Bob, and I'm going to read it. Not today. Can't do it today, but I will. You know what? I might read it to Ken Cuccinelli when he's on, see what Ken has to say about that. All right. Speaking of being quick, here's Joan in Milford. Go ahead, Joan.
I'll be quick. Jacob couldn't stop laughing about the fruit flies. Those things are dive bombers. They like the color white. Bill and I put vinegar and baking soda down the drain because I believe that's where they multiply.
Yes.
And I have those sticky things in my little plants on my windowsill in the kitchen. But that's been catching what they call the black thrips that come off the plants.
Yeah.
And secondly, about Camilla. Allegedly, she was told not to answer Brett Barr's questions. I'm sorry.
Yeah.
And another thing I heard real quick.
So, Joan, can I just ask? She didn't answer one question. She never had any plans on it.
No.
Really? The only reason she was there to get her talking points out, which the audience, Fox audience, doesn't give two hoots about anyway. So why did she even waste her time?
Well, you know, she was so rude. She came late. Well, that was to stir things up, you know. And lastly, I heard last night in the radio. Now, I don't know if you heard it. Correct me if I'm wrong if you did. There are waiting down below Guatemala, outside of it, 400,000 people ready to cross our borders.
Yep.
I believe if Trump gets in or right before the election or whatever, so Donald Trump could never get rid of those people if he gets in.
Well, there's going to be a rush to the border if Trump is the winner on November 5th. Unfortunately, Joan, unfortunately, we didn't create this mess. Kamala the commie did, and she refuses to even accept her responsibility for the rape and murder of American women. All right, let's welcome in Kathy, Lewes, Delaware. Kathy, good morning. How do you get rid of fruit flies?
It's funny. I just changed and I just started. I do not have as many as you and the other people have, but I don't like the couple I have. I love that monologue. But the bottom line is Trump. You have to love the man. Last night, yesterday, when he went to a barber shop, he had something with Tyrus. He was there. This morning, he's on Fox. You missed that one, Jake.
I did watch it. I did. I was able to watch it. Nancy came and got me. I was getting dressed, so I did watch it. Yes.
It was unbelievable. And then, did you hear him say he's meeting with Murdoch today?
I did not hear him say that.
He basically said what he's going to tell him. He's going to tell him, don't play any of those commercials, I guess, for Kamala, and don't have any of those people on the... he is so blasted honest. There's nothing that man will keep back. That is why I love him. Have a good weekend.
You know something, Kathy? He has become... He never used to be this way. Knowing Trump for all the years, and not personally, but knowing him as a famous New Yorker... He was never a people person. He is now. He's a man of the people.
And he's a man of God.
Yep, he is.
I'm telling you, I wouldn't be surprised because you talked about his sister being a Catholic. I know his wife is. I would think that he gets in there, he's going to convert.
You know what, Kathy? He doesn't have to convert. All he has to do is lead this nation back to God. That's all he has to do.
And you're exactly right. But you have to love the man, love everything about him, because he is so honest. And guess what? He will make this country so much better. A great week you had. Take your rest and go fight your fruit flies.
It's a never-ending battle, as you know. Now, producer Eric in chat right now says, Jake, you have a fruit fly in your drink. Do you dip it out and continue or mix a fresh one? If it's single malt, there's enough alcohol, I think, in that adult beverage, Eric, to sanitize the fruit fly. So I'm not going to get rid of good whiskey for nothing. Would you agree? Well, whiskey's expensive enough. I know President Trump's talked about getting rid of tariffs between the UK and here so we can get cheaper whiskey. We definitely need cheaper whiskey, that's for sure. But I would not get rid of an expensive adult beverage. There's plenty of alcohol in it to sanitize the drink. Just get rid of the foreign matter in the drink, and then go for it. That's my feeling. Go ahead. You're on the air.
Hey, Jake, this is Chris from the Eastern Shore of Maryland. First time I've called in. Listen to you all the time now.
Thank you. I
was just calling in about the fruit flies, man. Here's a fun fact for you. The majority of the fruit flies come in on bananas in the stem. That's where the fruit bananas come from, and they lay their little eggs in the stem, and then you bring them into your house where it's nice and warm and toasty, and they hatch and they come out, and then they infest the whole Eastern Shore.
I did not know that. I no longer eat bananas, but because of dietary concerns. But I'll be on the lookout.
Well, your neighbor might, and that's where they're coming from.
Okay. So,
but the one thing to do, man, fingernail polish.
Do you remember
fingernail polish the ends of the bananas?
Oh.
No more fruit flies.
All right, so we're going to now put fingernail polish on the bottom. Why don't we just wash off the stems of the bananas? Rinse them off.
Because they're inside of it. They're like buried in there.
Oh, they burrow.
But
so we're going to
fingernail polish, like the soft end of it. If you fingernail polish it over, it seals it up and they can't get out.
Oh, so we're going to seal them in. I remember when my mother moved to Florida, the first hurricane that she experienced, she calls me on the phone panicking, saying that my brother-in-law was boarding up the windows, and she calls me and says, they're sealing me in here like I'm in a can of sardines. Well, I guess that's what you're talking about doing with the fruit flies, right?
Yes.
Right. Thank you for that Advice from the eastern shore of Maryland, the old line state. You're listening to Your News Talk America. We've got a Fox News update coming up, top of the hour. We've got local news. We've got sports. We've got it all. And then it's Digital Interactive Friday.
The official talk radio station of the White Marlin Open, WGMD, Rehoboth Beach, Ocean City, and WUSX, Seaford, Salisbury. News, talk, and sports.
From joking on stage to campaigning on TV in the morning. I'm Dave Anthony, Fox News. Former President Trump making the case on Fox and Friends for being elected again.
We had 4 years of greatness. We had the greatest economy in history. We had the greatest border.
And he talked about supporting among minorities the day after going to a barber shop in the Bronx in New York City.
With black men, I'm at 32% and 31%. This is sort of throwing their formulas off a little bit.
As for Vice President Harris calling the former president unstable, unhinged, and dangerous.
They are a threat to democracy. These people are misinformation people. They'll say, let's go out with this one. They've tried many different things. They tried, he's a dictator. He's going to take over the whole world. He's a this. Every week they try something else.
Now, last night, the former president cracked jokes, as is tradition, at the Al Smith Catholic Charities dinner in New York.
It's really a pleasure anywhere in New York without a subpoena for my appearance.
Vice President Harris was not there, though. She sent a recorded skit featuring Molly Shannon reprising her Catholic schoolgirl role from Saturday Night Live.
Just so you know, there will be a fact checker there tonight. Oh, that's great. Who? Jesus.
Harris held a rally instead in Wisconsin.
America wants a president who will serve on behalf of all the American people.
Again, touting the Republicans who are supporting her, including former cabinet members from the Trump presidency. Today, both Trump and Harris will campaign in a toss-up state, Michigan. The suspect in the second Trump assassination attempt is asking the federal judge on his case to recuse herself because Eileen Cannon was appointed by the former president and dismissed the Trump classified documents criminal case. President Biden's in Germany for talks on further helping Ukraine battle Russia. He also commented on Israel killing Hamas leader Yahya Sinwar, saying justice was done.
He had the blood of Americans and Israelis, Palestinians, and Germans, and so many others on his hands.
The Hamas official says there'll be no ceasefire until Israel withdraws from Gaza. America's listening to Fox News.
If your approach to everyday aches and pains is to mask them, feel better for a few hours only to have the pain return and then repeat the cycle all over again, it's time to try Relief Factor. And the good news is, Relief Factor makes that easy. Their 3-week quick start is just $19.95, less than $1 a day. Instead of masking pain, Relief Factor helps eliminate it. How? Well, its unique formula of ingredients helps support your body's response to inflammation. Relief Factor was developed by doctors. It's 100% drug-free, and for so many people, the results are game-changing, even life-changing. So give it a try. Right now, their 3-week quick start is just $19.95. Go to ReliefFactor.com or call 1-800-4-RELIEF. That's 1-800-4-RELIEF. See how in a few weeks or even days, Relief Factor can reduce your pain. When you feel better, life is just better. So don't mask pain. Fight it naturally with
The station Delaware and Maryland turns to for local news. Here is another Delmarva news update here on 92.7 WGMD, WGMD.com, and the WGMD app.
I'm Bill Robbins in the Talk of Delmarva Newsroom. The Maryland Department of Transportation State Highway Administration will resurface 6 miles of Price Station Road between Blue Star Memorial Highway and Ruthsburg Road in Queen Anne's beginning October 21st. All work should be finished by mid-December, weather permitting. Work includes milling, patching, paving, and striping. Drivers should be alert for a single-lane flagging operation on weekdays from 7 a.m. till 5 p.m. As the Southeast recovers from the devastation of Hurricanes Helene and Milton, many want to help by donating. Unfortunately, scammers often exploit disasters by setting up fake charities. Attorney General Anthony G. Brown warns people to be cautious of the fraudulent charities and scams as you plan to donate to relief efforts. Before donating, the Maryland Attorney General's office advises checking to see if the charity is registered with the Maryland Secretary of State's Public Registry. He says to stick to well-known national or local organizations known for disaster relief and use websites like GuideStar and Charity Navigator to do your research. Christmas is a little over 2 months away, and the Harrington Police Department has started raising money to help kids who would miss out on the holiday joy. You can make donations in person at the police headquarters on Mechanic Street. The department also is planning its second annual Shop with a Cop. They'll have details once they set a date. PennDOT announces the closure of Substation Road between Burbage Road and Beaver Dam Road in the Ocean View area starting next week on Tuesday, October 22nd through December 6th. For road resurfacing and drainage work, you're asked to follow posted detours.
WGMD.
Breezy with lots of sunshine, 66 this afternoon. Clear tonight, 40 inland, 53 at the beach. Nice weekend to get outside. Sunshine tomorrow and Sunday, 67 at the beach, 68 Sunday, 73 to 76 in the inland areas. For more on these and other stories, visit talkofdelmarva.com.
Looking for holiday elegance with top quality food for you and your guests this season? Now is the time to book your holiday parties. At 1776 Steakhouse in Rehoboth, voted Best Steakhouse from Best of Delaware Today magazine for the last 10 years in a row. The best steaks at the beach, period. You can now reserve your party online or purchase a gift card at 1776steakhouse.com or call 302-645-9355.
Listen up, Delmarva anglers. The Talk Delmarva Fishing Report.
Brought to you by Complete Tree Care, licensed and insured. Request an estimate at CompleteTreeCareDE.com.
It's time for the Talk Delmarva Fishing Report with Eric Burnley.
Small craft advisories were up on Thursday, and they're posted for Friday as well. Old Inlet Bait and Tackle reported that big blues were caught from the North Jetty on Thursday morning. White bucktails were the top attractor. Keeper tog and sheep's head were taken from the inlet rocks on sand fleas and green crabs. The Maryland Department of Natural Resources has issued the Striped Bass Young of the Year survey results for 2024, and the numbers are not good. Last year, the number was 1, so at least this year we did mark an increase to the number 2. That's still a long way from the average of 11. The last time we reached the average was in 2018. We've been in worse shape than this. The Young of the Year was below average from 1971 until 1989. Since 1989, we've had 15 years of above average Young of the Year, and those are the fish we're catching now. This is Eric Burnley with your Talk of Delmarva Fishing Report.
Broadcasting from the Meineke Car Care Center studio. It's your News Talk America on 92.7 WGMD. The Talk of Delmarva.
You are listening to your anchorman, Jake Smith, on your News Talk America. You are connected 24/7 to your News Talk America at realnewstalk.com.
And a very good Friday morning. Welcome to yournewstalk.com, digital, interactive, and dialing in. That's what we're doing. We're dialing in right now. realnewstalk.com. Be a producer of this broadcast and get access to the actual show notes that I use to put this broadcast together. My name is Jake Smith. I'll be with you for the next 2 hours as we bring you nothing but the truth. It is our digital interactive broadcast where you get the opportunity to become a producer. You can go onto the chat room and talk amongst others in the audience today. You can also upload questions to our panelists. And I want to welcome as our first panelist today, and we're very pleased to have him with us, Dr. Stanley K. Ridgely, author of the book Brutal Minds, The Dark World of Left-Wing Brainwashing in Our Universities. Dr. Ridgely is a clinical professor of management at Drexel University's LeBeau College of Business. He holds a doctorate and master's in international relations from Duke University and an international MBA from Temple University. He has also studied at Moscow State University and the Institut des Gestions Sociales in Paris. I hope my French is pretty bad, Doctor. Sorry about that, but I know when I go up to the French provinces in Quebec, I have difficulty reading the left side of the newspaper because it's all in French. However, I want to play you a cut from, this is Kamala Harris, Columbus Day, giving a speech where she basically compares explorers to the New World as terrorists. Listen to this.
It is an honor, of course, to be with you this week as we celebrate Indigenous Peoples Day, as we speak truth about our nation's history. Those explorers ushered in a wave of devastation for tribal nations, perpetrating violence, stealing land, and spreading disease. We must not shy away from this shameful past.
Dr. Ridgely, she didn't learn that on her own, and I would say that that is something that has come out of our colleges and universities, the fact that the explorers were terrorists, the settlers were terrorists. When we send our children off to college in the fall, they come home for Thanksgiving holiday, and even for those parents that swore my kid will never be indoctrinated into Marxism or socialism or communism, they come home for Thanksgiving and they're telling their parents, well, you shouldn't even be celebrating this holiday. This holiday marks an anniversary where we terrorized indigenous peoples. Welcome to our digital interactive broadcast this morning, Dr. Ridgely.
Well, thanks, Jake. I really appreciate it. Always glad to talk about the decline of American higher education and what we can do practically to avert and reverse that decline. It was quite an intro with the august candidate for the Democratic candidate for the presidency of the United States. I think she's merely parroting what you rightly said was generated on the college campuses, the land acknowledgement. And I say right now, I acknowledge that I live and work on my own ancestral lands, won in battle by my conqueror ancestors against the Stone Age civilization. That's how I like to phrase it. Now, what you mentioned is very important, that the idea that parents send their kids off to college to learn the best that has been thought and said, as was related to us by Matthew Arnold, and they make a terrible mistake in assuming that the college is the same college that they went to, say 25, 30 years ago. It is not the same college. It is not a clearinghouse or a marketplace of ideas where the best that has been thought and said, can contend against each other. And if you are found wanting under critical consideration and being escorted to the exit when you lose, that's not the college campus of today. Today, the college campus is generally a crucible of Marxist indoctrination, and I don't say that lightly. That's a generalization that I can substantiate and is substantiated in brutal minds. So it's a terrible situation, but it's something that can be rectified if we are armed with the precise, correct information and the tactics we can use to correct that.
Doctor, let me get to a question from one of our producers on our dial today, our dial community. There is no legal way to end communism other than by every citizen rejecting it. How can we convince all parents and students not to go to any socialist communist college, thereby replacing all communist colleges, universities with freedom-loving ones? Is the bottom line that parents are taking the risk of sending their children to these institutions where communism, Marxism are codified, are going to be taught, those principles are going to be taught to their children, whether they like it or not? Why are we then spending money? Is it the prestige of attending this college or university? If you don't send your kid there, you'd rather send them to Hillsdale College, that's not going to be the problem. Parents are choosing to send their children to these communist-controlled institutions, are they not, sir?
Well, I think they are. And whenever you say communist-controlled institutions, I think, let me modify that just a little bit.
Please,
utilize the proxy or the language, the euphemistic language that they like to use. Colleges across the nation are always embracing what they call social justice. And that is a collectivist notion of the idea that we're moving away from individualistic justice, which is really the whole idea of justice, how people are treated as individuals, to the idea of group justice. And so when we hear the word social justice, we're really hearing a proxy of socialism. And a lot of colleges have no fear. In fact, they brew it. They publicize the notion that we stand for social justice and we want to educate for social justice. And I think when people hear that, they ought to hear the real message that this is really socialism. And there's really, the colleges and universities in America have always had a largely liberal, canted left bent. But that leftist canting of the university has increased tremendously over the last 20 years. The problem really is not with the faculty. I'm one of the very few conservative faculty that you'll find. I teach at Drexel University. I have no problems with my liberal colleagues. The canting, or I should say the ratio is about 6 to 1, liberal to conservative. But if you go to the administration, you go to the bureaucracy, you will find a 12 to 1, liberal to conservative. And this is very important because it is the bureaucracy that is doing most of what I call the brainwashing or the indoctrination or the thought reform of our college students. Again, I reiterate that the university is not this benign environment where students who are well brought up, traditional values, who are imbued with the Enlightenment values of humane values, progress, logic, reason, can go and expect to have their opinions respected. That's not what we find. What we find is workshops and seminars and caucuses that are run by student affairs. These are non-faculty members.
Well, what about the Confucius Institutes, Professor?
Well, the Confucius Institutes, and I'm not going to speak at length about it because I'm outside of my wheelhouse to a certain extent.
All right.
But I have looked at it. Anytime you have an outside funding group with a particular ideological bent, you can expect that group to propound its ideology. Confucius himself, well, he was a great philosopher, okay, but it's like the Communist Party of China is utilizing Confucius as a kind of a stalking horse to infiltrate American higher education.
No question.
And what you're going to get is a collectivist message. And that is the great battle, I think, that Friedrich Hayek, the great economist, Nobel Prize winning economist, said the great battle is between collectivism and individualism. And you'll find that particularly amongst the DEI or critical race theory folks and the left, that they are dead set against the idea of individualism. And they do this explicitly. They say this explicitly. And I think that we have to recognize that. And that this idea of group rights or group considerations or collectivist, it takes a village to raise a kid. We have to be aware of all this, going back to Hillary Clinton. We have to be aware that there are people on the college campuses who have embraced this, and they have as a motto, when I say they, I'm referring to student affairs, who are not faculty, but they run a parallel or a para-curriculum alongside the actual curriculum. Their motto is boldly transforming higher education. That's the motto of the bureaucrats, not the faculty. Now, you have to understand, and when I say faculty they're involved in this, I'm not talking about the faculty in physics or the faculty in mathematics or engineering or business or economics. I'm talking about the questionable academic disciplines of sociology, a lot of history, and it's particularly the humanities. English courses really are infested with this kind of rank ideology that has really nothing to do with teaching the classics, if you will. And so we have to be on guard. Parents have to arm themselves with the right kinds of knowledge, the facts on how to arm their students and to prepare themselves against this kind of indoctrination. It can be done. And I think that anyone can get the kind of education that they're paying for if you are aware of how to recognize the threat when it appears. And
that's important. Let's talk about that. We need to take a break. Dr. Stanley K. Ridgely. Professor Ridgely is the author of Brutal Minds, The Dark World of Left-Wing Brainwashing in Our Universities. It's obviously a problem. This nation's in the position it's in today, my friends, because of the pollution of young people in our universities. There's no question that that's a problem for us. Professor, there's no question that this nation is more aware of what's going on in our colleges and universities based on the anti-Semitism, which was a pandemic across this country over the last several months. Let's talk about that. Has that changed the equation for parents with respect to sending their children to some of these bastions of anti-Semitism, these places such as UCLA and so forth? Let's talk about that. We have more questions from our producers. realnewstalk.com. They are posted right now. We'll get to those with Dr. Stanley K. Ridgely. Back with Dr. Ridgely in just a moment. Please stay with us.
Here's a look at your Delmarva forecast. Bright sunshine expected today with daytime highs approaching 70. Northerly winds 8 to 15 miles per hour. Clear skies again tonight. Lows level off around 41. Daytime highs approaching 72 tomorrow. Ample sunshine expected. High of 74 Sunday under mainly clear skies. 76 Monday. I'm meteorologist Paul Trombley from the Talk of Delmarva Weather Center along the coast. Right now, 52.
The Talk of Delmarva Radio Flea Market, Saturday morning at 10 on The Talk of Delmarva. You're listening to WGMD.
Broadcasting from the Lincicome Car Care Center studio. It's your News Talk America on 92.7 WGMD. The Talk of Delmarva.
Cybersecurity Awareness Month is in full swing, and LifeLock is here to spotlight the threat of phishing, those sneaky scams designed to trick you into revealing your personal information. While staying alert is important, true protection goes beyond just awareness. That's where LifeLock steps in with comprehensive protection. LifeLock doesn't just warn you about suspicious activity. LifeLock monitors your personal info and resolves identity theft issues if they arise. Take control of your security. Start your 30-day free trial at LifeLock.com. Use promo code NEWS. Terms apply.
Are you having trouble hearing? Hearing loss can devastate the quality of your life. Now, there's an affordable fix for you or your loved one. Rated in the best hearing aids of 2024 by USA Today, Audion Hearing has the highest quality hearing aids at the lowest prices. Just $189.
I actually like them better than my old $5,000 hearing aids.
I could not believe how my hearing and life changed.
Join over 500,000 happy customers by going to audionhearing.com. That's AUDIEN hearing.com.
Based on hundreds of 5-star reviews, Gun Shooter Enterprises is proud to be rated by Delaware locals as their favorite gun shop. When you walk through the door at Gun Shooter Enterprises in Millsboro, you'll be met with a knowledgeable staff and respect. Customers love the transparent pricing of new and used inventory, the in-house experienced repair team, and the firearms training classes. Visit them in downtown Millsboro with plenty of free public parking at gunshooter.com or call 302-663-0838.
Hi, Dr. Michelle Parsons here. Here at Rehoboth Medical Spa, we have been treating our patients with a new class of medications for weight loss, including Saxenda, Wegovy, and Mounjaro. All of these prescription medications have been extremely effective at curbing appetite and helping our patients easily lose pounds that they have not been able to lose before at affordable prices. We make it easier for you to lose weight and improve your health. Book your free consultation today at 302-227-1079. Rehoboth Medical Spa, where the doctor is the difference.
Renovate. The next big idea is little. Do you need a place to live? Housing prices got you down? Here is your solution. A turnkey one-bedroom home from $65,999. Perfect for a guest house, in-law suite, office, gym, vacation rentals, and more. Other models available. Come and see for yourself. 35151 Roxana Road, Frankfort, Delaware. Call 302-272-1534 or visit yourlittleliving.com for more information. You dream it and we'll create it.
Views and opinions expressed are those of the hosts, callers, and guests, and not necessarily the staff, management, ownership, advertisers, or sponsors of WGMD.
Broadcasting from the Lincicome Car Care Center studio. It's your News Talk America on 92.7 WGMD. The Talk of Delmarva.
If you have been scratching your head as to how radicals could have seized control in Washington and of American media while defaming American democracy as a, quote, white supremacist, unquote, nightmare, look no further than the left's transformation of American universities into ideological boot camps for Marxist treachery. Brutal Minds is a model of clarity and straight talk about this national tragedy, whose destructive energies have yet to run their course, unquote. Who said that? David Horowitz, best-selling author, who's been on this program a number of times. David Horowitz said that about the book Brutal Minds, The Dark World of Left-Wing Brainwashing in Our Universities, authored by our panelist, Dr. Stanley K. Ridgely. Dr. Ridgely, the ugly secret about colleges and universities was outed after October 7th. Would you agree? And how much impact has that had on parents' decision of where to send their children to higher education, to those colleges and universities beginning this fall? What would you say?
I agree with you 100% that the mask indeed is off. and we're even hearing this proxy of utilizing where I'm anti-Zionist, but we all know that they mean they're anti-Jewish. And I think that this, if there's any kind of silver lining, there really isn't, but there's any kind of positive aspect, is this October 7th attack by a terrorist Hamas by a barbarous civilization has revealed, I think, it's brought the people, smoked them out, as it were.
No question.
From the shadows. And we see this barbaric, sympathizing with mutilation, murder, and rape, and this unabashed hate that has been gestating on our college campuses. Primarily, Columbia University is the archetype, I think, along with UCLA and Berkeley as well. And I think we should be thankful that they have now been outed. And
no question about it. One of our producers, Eric, points out that Columbia suspended a pro-Israel professor.
Yeah, that's Professor Davidai. He's a friend of mine, and that's absolutely absurd. That they're basically punishing the good guys to celebrate the bad guys. The bad guys are not hard to find on the college campuses. They are now protesting. They're out there. They're wearing certain garb. I won't even distinguish it or dignify what it is, but we know what it is. These are the advocates, and these are the avatars of murder, mutilation, and rape. And I think we need to recognize this is a battle between civilization and barbarity. And as long as, when we acknowledge that and recognize that, I think that our actions should be clear. Let me how did this come about? How did this come about? Well, when I say the word brainwashing, I'm really referring to thought reform. And this is an idea, this is a process. It's a psychological manipulation, behavior modification techniques that's designed to change someone's belief system. And as you mentioned, why is it my kid comes back to Thanksgiving holiday so quickly? He's changed his mind.
What happened? Parents said, I send my kid a patriotic American, then 2 months later they come home, they're a card-carrying commie? How could that happen? It's not going to happen to my kid. Well, it's happening to most kids who are going off to colleges and universities, Professor.
Yes, it shows the success of these techniques, which don't stop after the first 2 or 3 months. The techniques are 3 stages. The idea is to destabilize a student's belief system and change it to something else. It's 3 stages. The first is unfreezing the current belief system, changing it, and then refreezing it, or doing the work to occupy the student with activities that reinforce the new belief system. Well, this is key for parents to understand, and also for students to understand that these people, when I say these people, I'm referring to some faculty who are on the far left, and mainly these folks in student affairs and these workshops and seminars, caucuses. They desperately want to achieve a relationship of trust with the student. You have to give them trust before their program can work. And so they are really quite weird when they do this. They're smiling really big. They sound and look like Moonies or cultists.
Well, it's treachery. It is treachery, as David Horowitz called it. That's what it is. These kids are impressionable. They know that they can be manipulated, indoctrinated. They can be brainwashed, and they see that opportunity, and that's what they are seizing on that opportunity. I call it building an army of communists. That's what I have called it, Professor. You may not go that far. I have.
Well, it's not utilitarian for me to say this. I happen to agree with you 100% because they're not going to use the C word. They rarely use the M word, Marxism, right?
Yeah, right. Even though it fits, right? Well, let me get to this producer's question, Professor, if I might, because we're running out of time.
Sure.
And it comes from our producer 3M, who asks, universities have always been a breeding ground for leftist indoctrination. In the 1960s, we were surely a time that prospered, but did Bill Clinton's student loan policies have anything to do with its renewal? What say you, sir?
Well, I'd have to have it explicated to me exactly what the revision of student loan policies, exactly what's being referred to before I could address that question. But Bill Clinton, I think, is looking better and better in hindsight compared to the current administration and the Obama administration, in the sense that he actually his policies, look they're not great policies, but they're certainly better than what we've seen. I think he laid the groundwork for what was to come.
Right.
And the 60s is the source of a lot of our angst and a lot of our problems that we see on the college campuses
today. Right.
Yeah.
I mean, we see in college campuses whites are not allowed to be accepted into certain dormitories or for minorities or people of color only. Jews aren't allowed to go in this building, that building. What the hell is going on, Professor?
What we have to understand, what we have to demand from our colleges is for them to enforce their own regulations and for them to enforce the law. You do not abrogate or lose your rights when you walk through the college dormitory.
Great point.
The civil rights laws protect you. Title IX protects you. The Constitution protects you. The First, Fourth, and 14th Amendment protects you. And these are protections that most students are not aware that they do have. And I think that if I had one piece of advice to give to students, that would be to maintain your sense of skepticism. Question these people. Watch out for these folks who want to make you their friend really, really fast.
Now, you're speaking to students now.
Yes, I am.
Right.
And for parents to tell their students this. When I say, look, if someone's trying to be your friend and is smiling and telling you your jokes are all funny and your fashion sense is there, you have a voice, they're trying to get you to trust them, accelerated trust them, so that then they can begin to collect information on you, attack your belief system, turn that belief system around, and then have you do the work. And so then you go back angry at your parents because your parents didn't tell you the truth about the social world. That's the piece of advice I would give. And I find all of this is laid out in Brutal Minds. It's a wonderful guidebook, and it's accessible, and it tells you exactly who the villains are, what they do, who they do it to, and where they're doing it.
Professor, a question from one of our producers, Wolf. Why is it that leftist ideologues have taken over K through graduate school unchallenged? Now, this indoctrination is starting much earlier in public education than it had. We're focusing on secondary education. We're focusing on colleges and universities, but it's going on in public schools today. They're starting the kids very, very young. Would you agree with that assessment, sir?
I agree 100%. I'll tell you the cause of it. It's the 100% takeover of American education schools at higher education. Now, there may be exceptions, okay, but generally speaking, that the leftists, the Marxists, I should say, self-professed Marxist theorists, almost every one of the folks in the pantheon that education is hold here, Henry Giroux, Paulo Freire, Bell Hooks, they are all self-professed Marxists. And this cannot but have an impact on what is being taught to.
No question. These kids are like sponges, Professor, are they not?
They are. The folks that go to learn to be teachers are not really learning, I should say generally speaking, not learning subject matter, such as math and chemistry, that sort of thing. They're learning education theory. And they go to teach in the K through 12, and they see this as an opportunity to employ social emotional learning to indoctrinate kids, to turn them basically to separate them from their parents. And we see a lot of this in K through 12, where students are told to keep secrets from their parents.
Right. Professor, let me get to the final question. We have to, unfortunately, run out of time, but it's such an interesting topic. I want to run over just a couple of moments because I produce the show, so I have the power to do that, sir. Here is this question from Bob in Lewes, Delaware. You're a veteran of the United States military. Thank you, sir, for your service to the nation. Bob wants to know, how did your military service help you as a university professor, sir?
I would say that my service in military intelligence, where analytical skills are valued, the idea of interpreting what is actually going on, putting the pieces together, to form a cogent solution so that then you can recommend prudent courses of action to the commander, is absolutely a value. And it's the kind of critical thinking that all people should come out of the university embracing. And I encourage students to go back to, if you've not already done so, and embrace this idea of critical thinking. Cock an eyebrow like that and say, hey, here's what I'm being told. Does it make sense to me? And if it doesn't, there's probably a good reason it doesn't. So that's my answer to your question, Bob. I appreciate it.
The book, Brutal Minds, The Dark World of Left-Wing Brainwashing in Our Universities. My friends, if you want to know why this nation is under threat today, this is the book that gives you the answer. Goes right to the root of the problem. The author, Dr. Stanley K. Ridgley, R-I-D-G-L-E-Y. Dr. Ridgley, thank you. What a great segment. Would love to have you back on again in the future.
I love talking about this. I love alerting people to the dangers, and I thank you so much for the opportunity.
Thank you, sir. We appreciate it. You're listening to Your News Talk America. I'm going to talk election integrity in just a moment. Please stay with us.
Here is the marine forecast from the Delmarva Weather Center. A smoke advisory is currently in effect for our area waters. We'll have winds out the north today at 15 to 20 knots, gusting up to 25 with seas at 5 to 7 feet. As for tides in Rehoboth, the next tide's high tide at 8:49 a.m., the next low tide's at 3:08 p.m., and we'll have another high tide at 9:11 p.m. And in Cambridge, the next tide's low tide at 8:16 a.m., the next high tide's at 5:21 p.m., and we'll have another low tide at 12:15 a.m.
Hi, this is the Rehoboth Foodie. Join me on Saturday afternoons from 2 to 4 on WGMD 92.7, the talk, or rather, the food of Delmarva.
This WGMD Fox Business Update is brought to you by Sussex Environmental Consultants. For a healthy home, call 302-947-1810.
I'm Lauren Simonetti, and this is the Fox Business Report.
Stocks open mixed. The Dow lost ground after another record on Thursday. Netflix shares rose 8% at the open after its upbeat quarter. Its subscriber base grew more than 5 million. It was helped by its cheaper ad-supported plan. American Express shares are down 5%. Its earnings top forecast. Revenue was weaker than anticipated, but it's raising its estimates for the year. American Express shares rose to a record yesterday. Apple shares are up more than 1%. Research in China indicates its new iPhone 16 is seeing strong sales in China. Procter & Gamble shares are down a fraction. Its sales are weaker, though P&G shoppers continue to pay for Tide detergent, Pampers, and other premium products. That's your Fox Business Report. I'm Jenny Cosola. Invested in you.
Wow, you look fantastic. I love all the sparkle. It's your fault. You introduced me to jewelry television. I can't stop watching. Right? The prices are amazing. I know. There are so many different styles, and the color gemstone jewelry? Are you kidding me? Gorgeous. And did you notice JTV also has gifts for men? I got Jake an Invicta watch that he loves.
New JTV customers receive $40 off their next purchase when they shop jtv.com/radio.
Who are you texting? I'm not. I'm shoppingjtv.com.
Broadcasting from the Panelists Car Care Center studio. It's your News Talk America on 92.7 WGMD. The Talk of Delmarva.
Illegal, unconstitutional, and void. That was Fulton County Superior Court Judge Thomas Cox's decision on state election rules passed in recent months that would have required ballots be hand-counted once the polls closed November 5th. The rules, which also would cover certification of results, were passed by a Republican-led election board with members endorsed by former President Trump. Challengers to the rules said they were made to delay the outcome. Supporters said it guarantees accuracy. The Georgia Election Board can appeal. Gernal Scott, Fox News.
My friends, election integrity is on our minds, and well, it should be. Our second segment, Digital Interactive Friday on Your News Talk America. Your anchorman, Jake Smith, great to be with you again. And I want to just talk about election integrity. There are a number of stories that were in the news this past week. You may have seen them, you may not have, you may have missed them. There's so much going on. It's not unusual to miss something because the news cycle is such that all of us are hard pressed to really keep track of it. Election integrity. How can we ensure that 2024 our election will not be stolen? The state of Florida is suing the Biden administration over claims that its refusal to verify immigration records so that Florida can ensure that the integrity of its voter rolls and prevent non-citizens from voting. Why is the Biden regime suing the state of Florida for trying to clean up its voter rolls? Fulton County judge in Florida struck down 7 new election rules, including hand counting of ballots after polls close. And we know what happened allegedly in 2020, and mandatory video surveillance of drop boxes claiming it is illegal and unconstitutional and void. Wow, that is incredible. So election integrity, my friends, is in the news. It hasn't gone away, and if we don't keep track of it, we are going to be looking at similar conditions that we were dealing with back in 2020. However, I don't think we have Ken Cuccinelli. Ken hasn't signed on. It was confirmed last night. Let me just check once again with our control room. Do we have Ken Cuccinelli? Waiting for an answer. And with that, let me again remind you, if you want to sign on and become a producer, realnewstalk.com. So we're very fortunate that Dr. Stanley K. Ridgely has agreed to stay on for and extend his segment. Dr. Ridgely, thank you so much for coming back on with us. So let's continue our discussion. And I know we talked about, before you left, and we were running out of time, we talked about those things that have, those who have been indoctrinating our children have used to get inside their heads because they're impressionable, they're vulnerable. The indoctrination is happening much earlier. When did you, as a professor at Drexel University, and by the way, one of our producers, Bob in Lewes, Delaware, says that he loves Drexel University, great electrical engineering school, so kudos to Drexel. When did you first start to see that this problem was affecting not only families, because I have said for a long time that I believe that these Marxist professors are actively trying to separate our children from their families. In other words, interrupt the family unit and cause problems for the country that way. Tell us, when did you first think that you needed to write the book? And again, the book, Brutal Minds, The Dark World of Left-Wing Brainwashing in Our Universities. Go ahead, Professor.
Well, first of all, let me interject and just say I agree with you 100% that Marxists, generally speaking, are engaged in preparing generations for the future struggles. But this has been expressed by Marxists. Frederick Jameson, a Marxist professor when I was at Duke University, an icon of the campus left, said the purpose of the university is to prepare new generations of students for the struggles of the future, meaning young Marxists for the struggles of the future. This is their perspective. They are in the business of changing the institution, not simply operating within the confines of the institution in this marketplace of ideas.
Interesting.
They want to they view the institution differently than, say, you or I do, and they are in the business of changing. I said that their motto of one of these groups is boldly transforming higher education. Now, when did I start looking at this? Well, I was writing another book at the time, looking at the impact of critical theory on management, because I do teach in the business school. My degrees are in political science, right, and international business. So, but I began to see this in my research, and I began to follow the bibliographic trail, which is what we do. And research is always fun. It's much more fun than writing itself. Writing is is tough. And I began to see, and I began to tug at these metaphorical threads, and lo and behold, I found this on the college campuses, this group of people who are student affairs professionals. That's how they describe themselves. And they have been running a parallel curriculum, not the actual curriculum where I teach, but a parallel curriculum of workshops, seminars, et cetera, and they consider themselves on par with faculty. They're brought into the campus via hiring process, circle of friends type of thing, and they're all they're all products of education schools. They're all products of the Marxist critical theory, critical race theory, critical pedagogy that is taught in education schools. And they have graduate programs that feed these people back into the university, which is why we have a 12-to-1 ratio of liberals to conservatives. This is not I didn't manufacture that ratio. This is from Sam Abrams, a professor at Sarah Lawrence College who did research on this just from 2 years ago. It's probably worse now. And this is where the danger lies. Marxist professors have purview and have I would say, aegis over their own classes, and they're really, for the most part, I don't trust them, the explicitly Marxist professors, because they have a different view. I view my classroom as a neutral space in a Max Weberian view.
A marketplace of ideas.
Exactly. And I teach a certain, they're not paying me to express my personal opinions or to propound a particular ideology. They're paying me to express and to propound skills that can help people succeed in a modern information age society. And that's what I do. I should say some students came up to me after one of my classes, and they were very hesitant to express because they couldn't tell what my ideology was.
Right.
I'm pro-free market. They wanted me to be the faculty advisor for Turning Point USA.
Oh, okay.
University. And I said, well, why don't you tell me about this TPUSA? I already knew very well what it was. Until you tell me, and then I'll make my decision based on what you tell me. And they said some great things. I mean, they said this, it's individualistic, it's patriotic, this is a traditional society that we believe in the Enlightenment University, all of these great things, and I agreed to be their faculty advisor. But the fact that these, you would say, right-wing students had to be very cautious. It expresses, I'm very pleased with that my presentation of ideas in my classes, all my classes, basically stick to the script of, hey, here are behaviors that you can use to help make yourself a success in our 21st century society.
One of our producers, Dr. Ridgely Wolf in Georgetown, said, to what degree has academic polarization of science eroded national R&D capability? Well, that's an interesting question, Wolf. A very good question, as a matter of fact, because I know kids now are being inundated at the elementary level about climate change. And climate change is going to ruin us all. And climate change is going to, your whole life is going to be ruined if you don't sign on to limiting your carbon footprint and those kinds of things. But how much damage has it done to this nation's R&D capability, or have we just surrendered that to communist China because of this? What do you think?
Well, it's a terrible thing. I would say the infiltration of this critical race theory, DEI, into the space of science, which we always thought was going to be, resistant to this sort of thing.
Right.
Med schools are an example of this. Duke University's med school has in its DEI plan an embrace of a list of so-called white supremacy behaviors, and you can find this on their website still. And I've looked at it, and this part of my what's in my book. The idea that a woman back in 1999 by the name of Tema Okun created this list of white supremacy behaviors, which has taken the nation by storm. And these supremacy behaviors include individualism, punctuality. Right. There are a bunch of success behaviors, and they've decided to denigrate these behaviors in the name of people who, you don't want to be punctual, you don't want to be an individualist. That these are cultural norms that you can reject, and if you reject them at your peril, if you don't want to be successful, well, this appears in the med school at Duke University's website, and this is absolutely awful. It's an abomination. And we find that diversity efforts in sciences, instead of saying, hey, the Enlightenment University is a venue for the free pursuit of ideas, and anyone who wants to join the university and pursue these ideas based on logic, reason, scientific method, welcome. Come one, come all. That's the diversity that the scientific method, the Enlightenment University, has always propounded. But that's not what DEI suggests. DEI views, and I will tell you that, views all whites as being racist. And this is a permanent condition. And that you need to, if you happen to fall into that category, acknowledge this and apologize because you are complicit in this system. And this is basically pseudoscience and magical thinking. I thought that we had expunged this, and I'd hope we expunged this type of thing 300 years ago when we got rid of alchemy, we got rid of astrology. All of these pseudosciences portraying themselves as legitimate fields of study.
Right, which they're not.
No, they're right. They're coming right back in, and they're coming through the door of under the rubric of DEI, which is an abomination on our college campuses. They have set up, they being the DEI people, have set up parallel hierarchies that are similar to the old Soviet NKVD of political officers to guarantee political reliability of the faculty. And it's amazing when you begin to tug at the strings and learn for yourself what they themselves are saying.
Dr. Stanley K. Ridgely, the author of Brutal Minds, The Dark World of Left-Wing Brainwashing in Our Universities, is joining us. Very kind of him to grant us a little bit more time. Doctor, we're going to be back. I've got a couple more questions for you as well here on Your News Talk America. We're digital, interactive, yournewstalk.com. You can actually log on and get a copy of my show notes for today, as well as participating in the broadcast as a producer. Dr. Ridgely loves answering your questions. He's answered already a bunch of them from our producers. You can log on, realnewstalk.com, and join the Dial community.
Here's a look at your Delmarva forecast. Bright sunshine expected today, with daytime highs approaching 70. Northerly winds 8 to 15 miles per hour. Clear skies again tonight. Lows level off around 41. Daytime highs approaching 72 tomorrow. Ample sunshine expected. High of 74 Sunday under mainly clear skies. 76 Monday. I'm meteorologist Paul Trombley from the Talk of Delmarva Weather Center along the coast. Currently, it's 56 degrees.
The Talk of Delmarva Fishing Report after the 6 a.m., 10 a.m., and 4 p.m. news and sports. Mike Bradley mornings on WGMD. News on the hour on WGMD.
Broadcasting from the Lincicome Car Care Center studio. It's your News Talk America on 92.7 WGMD. The Talk of Delmarva.
If you're thinking about retiring soon, be sure to tune into Wise Money with Michael Anderson of Anderson Wealth Management this Saturday morning at 9. Listen as Michael Anderson talks about the latest trends and headlines that could impact your retirement. Don't go into retirement unprepared. Listen this Saturday morning at 9 to Wise Money with Michael Anderson of Anderson Wealth Management. Michael Anderson, registered investment advisors, doing business at Anderson Wealth Management, is a registered investment advisor.
Sussex County, are you tired of skyrocketing prices, failing schools, increased crime, ever-increasing mandates and regulations? Then be a part of the solution and not the problem, and vote Republican. Policies matter. Your vote matters, but only if you vote. Early voting begins October 25th. General Election Day is November 5th. For polling times and locations, visit sussex.gop, paid for by the Sussex County Republican Committee.
At Bell House Medical, we're dedicated to enhancing the lives of aging adults and individuals with special needs. Our master grab bars are just the beginning. We specialize in adapting environments to foster independence, offering a variety of equipment designed to improve quality of life. I'm Steve Bell, here to serve those with reduced strength, balance, or mobility. Visit our showroom and medical supply store in Lewes, Delaware, or at mastergrabbar.com. Bell House Medical, your mobility partner.
Based on hundreds of five-star reviews, Gun Shooter Enterprises is proud to be rated by Delaware locals as their favorite gun shop. When you walk through the door at Gun Shooter Enterprises in Millsboro, you'll be met with a knowledgeable staff and respect. Customers love the transparent pricing of new and used inventory, the in-house experienced repair team, and the firearms training classes. Visit them in downtown Millsboro with plenty of free public parking at gunshooter.com or call 302-663-0838.
Get ready for an unforgettable night at Haunted Harvest, a murder mystery on October 27th from 6 to 9 p.m. at Windmill Creek Vineyard and Winery in Berlin. For $65, you'll enjoy delicious appetizers, a complimentary glass of wine, and an exciting live performance by the Lower Shore Performing Arts Company. This interactive event promises an evening full of suspense, mystery, and fun. Tickets are limited and sales end on October 20th, so don't miss out. Reserve your spot now. Go online to oceancity.org.
Tune in this Monday at 9:20 as I'll be live with Dr. Tiny as we discuss the housing segment. Learn how we can create housing options that work for everyone in our community. This Monday at 9:20.
Broadcasting from the Lincicome Car Care Center studio. It's your News Talk America on 92.7 WGMD. The Talk of Delmarva.
You're listening and watching Your News Talk America, Digital Interactive Friday. And we're very pleased to have with us, and he's been very gracious with his time, Dr. Stanley K. Ridgely, the author of Brutal Minds, The Dark World of Left-Wing Brainwashing in Our Universities. my teachers and professors when, a million years ago when I was in school, Professor, there was a difference. They were obviously very left. They were back in the 60s, the 70s, and beyond when I was in school, but there was a big difference. They actually liked debating. They were actually respectful of what I believed. And you know what? As my teacher or professor, they were proud that I was at least aware of what was going on in the world around me. And I think that that is something that's really changed. They didn't try to change me. They tried to convince me. I'll give you an example. In 1973, that Richard Nixon should resign from office. My history teacher at that time, he hated Nixon. I loved Nixon. And we debated every morning. But the fact that at the end of the day, he was proud of the fact that I stood my ground and debated. And that is something that perhaps is lost on education today. What say you, sir?
I have to agree with you. I would say that I am blessed with really aware students, for the most part, who are inquisitive and want to learn about those success behaviors that I laid out to you. We avoid, in my classes, political issues that have nothing to do with the matter at hand. And I wish that my colleagues would do so as well. I think that whenever we had this spate of protests on the college campuses, many professors in widely dispersed or a wide spectrum of disciplines invited into their classroom these discussions of these current events. Well, I don't teach classes on current events, and neither do many of these folks in English and in sociology. Now, we're teaching specific material to our students that allows them, enables them, and empowers them to view society through a particular lens of critical thinking, ask and answer the right questions, not to have a current events discussion. Now, there are certain places where you can do that sort of thing, but they have to be discrete, offered scenarios and forums for that type of discussion. Yeah, I love to have discussions. I've had lots of discussions in my office hours with students who are aware of my political standpoint. And like I said, I don't ever push my politics on any student unless they ask me. I don't push my politics on any colleague unless they ask me. And then it's open season. Then we can begin to talk about what's going on in the world and why. And I like to look to the roots of what's happening. I look to the roots of what is informing, who is informing this candidate for the presidency that the Democrats are offering right now. Where are these bromides, these platitudes coming from? And what do they symbolize? I mentioned earlier my career as a military intelligence officer, the idea that if something doesn't make sense to you, and what is the fact that the notional fact that you could plug in to make this situation make sense, right? And that's a good way of ferreting out and finding out and identifying an area for investigation. No, I love to have students who are inquisitive, who are aware, and who want to improve their understanding of what is going on.
That's the point. That's the point of them being there in the first place, Doctor, correct?
Correct. Unfortunately, I think that there's the idea that this Marxist structure, and I use it broadly conceived, this Marxist social justice construction is the correct way to apprehend our society. This is what young people, too many of them, have embraced. And they accept this as the truth because the people who are propounding this are projecting this as the truth. You have been lied to all your life. The conservatives, the good liberals, they've been lying to you. This is the way to understand, and they like to say, we're going to affix a racial lens or a critical lens, critical theory lens to understand the distinctions, the contradictions of power and privilege in our society. And this is the way, this will be revealed to you. You are now part of the anointed. And it's very difficult to talk to someone. And parents find this out. Their kids come back and they believe that they have been blessed or ushered into the...
Yes, the new America. Doctor, we've got to wrap things up, but I did have a question from one of our producers who wants to know what you think of John Dewey's role in beginning of the destruction of American education. I need a short answer, sir, if we can.
Well, he's complicit. How about that? He's 100% complicit.
Okay.
In today, the critical theorists, the critical pedagogists, they look to John Dewey as an inspiration, and then he's part of the pantheon I don't think he was a Marxist, but he's part of that pantheon of Marxists. I want to put a pitch in here for my wife, Lori, who is the co-chairman with Sheila Armstrong of Philadelphia's Moms for Liberty, and doing good work on the ground.
Well, let's hope President Trump gets more votes than Mitt Romney got in 2012, Professor. Dr. Stanley K. Ridgely, the book, Brutal Minds, The Dark World of Left-Wing Brainwashing in Our Universities. Doctor, thank you so much. God bless you. I'd love to have you back on the program again. I didn't think it was going to be this soon, but I'm so pleased. Thank you for staying with us.
My pleasure.
You're listening to Your News Talk America. News coming up at the top of the hour.
The Talk of Delmarva is 92.7 WGMD Rehoboth Beach and 98.5 WUSX Seaford.
The road to the White House runs through Michigan today. I'm Dave Anthony, Fox News. It's a toss-up state, so there will be Harris and Trump campaign events there. After the former president went on TV this morning telling Fox and Friends if he's elected again,
we're going to have a strong border. We're going to have the greatest economy. We're going to bring back the economy. We're not going to have inflation.
As for Vice President Harris calling him dangerous and unstable, warning of a second Trump term, the former president calls Democrats the threat to democracy.
This group will cause us World War III. They have no idea what they're doing. And, you know, I hate to talk that way, but we can't let this woman get in.
There will be Trump events in Oakland County and Detroit. As for his rival, Fox's Rich Edson's in Michigan.
Vice President Kamala Harris is going to see a lot of this state today. She's campaigning across it, Grand Rapids, Lansing, and then later on here in the Detroit suburbs. Michigan, these upper Midwest states, they were reliably Democratic in presidential elections for a quarter century. That changed in 2016. Trump won them. Now, Harris is here trying to shore up support among union members and Arab and black voters, constituencies that have overwhelmingly voted for Democrats. Polling shows that's eroded perhaps to the point where it makes a difference in this race.
President Biden is in Germany for talks with our NATO ally on further helping Ukraine battle Russia. Now, its President Vladimir Putin just said that NATO is fighting his country using Ukrainian soldiers, and Putin again said Russia will win, though he is open to talks with Ukraine under certain conditions. President Biden also commented today on the war in Gaza.
The death of the leader of Hamas represents a moment of justice.
Yahya Sinwar was a mastermind of the October 7th terror attacks that triggered the war.
Sinwar's death sparking cheers here in Israel from balconies to the streets, and also renewed hope, but mixed with concern for the remaining 101 hostages in Gaza.
Fox's Matt Finn in Tel Aviv, a Hamas official said today there will be no ceasefire or any hostages released until Israel withdraws from Gaza. America's listening to Fox News.
If your approach to everyday aches and pains is to mask them, feel better for a few hours only to have the pain return and then repeat the cycle all over again, it's time to try Relief Factor. And the good news is, Relief Factor makes that easy. Their 3-week quick start is just $19.95, less than $1 a day. Instead of masking pain, Relief Factor helps eliminate it. How? Well, its unique formula of ingredients helps support your body's response to inflammation. Relief Factor was developed by doctors. It's 100% drug-free, and for so many people, the results are game-changing, even life-changing. So give it a try. Right now, their 3-week quick start is just $19.95. Go to ReliefFactor.com or call 1-800-4-RELIEF. That's 1-800-4-RELIEF. See how in a few weeks or even days, Relief Factor can reduce your pain. When you feel better, life is just better. So don't mask pain. Fight it naturally with
Delmarva's home for local news at 92.7 and 98.5 WGMD, the Talk of Delmarva.
This WGMD News Report is locally brought to you by the Cottage Cafe. Open daily at 11 a.m. Find the menu, specials, and fun event details at cottagecafe.com.
I'm Jerry Lademan in the Talk of Delmarva newsroom. Delaware State Police are hoping for help with an unsolved murder in Laurel almost a year ago. They posted surveillance photos of suspects in the October 29, 2003 killing of 19-year-old Kylie Robinson. 2 other teenagers were shot at the home on West 7th Street. The investigation being handled by the State Police Homicide Squad. You can see the pictures of the suspects on our website. Maryland Attorney General Anthony Brown is warning about scams involving Hurricane Helene relief. Brown says if you're donating, you should make sure the charity you're giving to is legit His advice, stick to well-known national organizations, be wary of fake groups with names or logos similar to those real relief groups, and check out websites like GuideStar or Charity Navigator. Brown says you should never give any personal information until you've verified that your donation will help those in need, not line the pockets of a phony charity. Another warning, this one about potentially tainted mushrooms. The Maryland Department of Health says samples of enoki mushrooms taken from a mushroom farm in California have tested positive for listeria. Mushrooms in question come in a 150-gram or 5.3-ounce clear plastic package with a blue label with a description, enoki mushroom, in English and French, distributed by a company called the Enoki King Mushroom Farm in Ventura, California. More information on our website.
WGMD AccuWeather.
Breezy this afternoon, lots of sunshine, 66. Clear tonight, low 40 inland, 55 at the beach. A great weekend ahead. Sunshine tomorrow. Good weekend to get out on view. Fall foliage with the high 67 at the beach, 73 inland. Sunny and beautiful on Sunday, 68 at the beach, 76 inland. Marine forecast, winds from the north at 8 to 16 knots today and seas 4 to 8 feet. More on these and other stories, visit talkofdelmarva.com.
Karaoke night every Saturday at Cottage Cafe. Looking for something fun to do? Stop into the Cottage Cafe every Saturday for late night karaoke. Every Saturday from 9 p.m. to midnight, enjoy karaoke in the dining room, along with food and drink specials. Come by with friends, enjoy some drinks, snacks, and showcase your vocal talents. The Cottage Cafe, located on Route 1 in Bethany Beach, with karaoke every Saturday from 9 p.m. to midnight.
It's time for the 92.7 and 98.5 Talk of Delmarva Sports Report.
And good morning to Major League Baseball and playoff action. American League and National League Championship Series yesterday had the Yankees falling to the Cleveland Guardians 7-5, the final, and an exciting finish to the game. And that game went 10 innings, and with the win for Cleveland, they narrowed the series deficit. The Yankees now lead that series 2-1. The Mets falling at home again to the LA Dodgers, this time by a score of 10-2. LA leads that series now 3-1. The slate of games for tonight, the Mets host the LA Dodgers at 5:08 on Fox Sports 1. David Peterson on the mound for the Mets. Jack Flaherty for the Dodgers. At 8:08 on TBS True TV and Max, the Yankees once again on the road in Cleveland, taking on the Guardians. Luis Seal on the mound for the Yankees. Gavin Williams for the Guardians. To the NHL we go last night, and the Capitals handing Dallas their first loss of the year as the Stars got out to a 4-0 start to the season. The Caps win 3-2. They're now 2-1 on the season. To this one, Taylor Radish's goal at the 17-19 mark late in the second period, ending up being the difference in the game. Other scores yesterday as all the local teams were in action. The Flyers fell on the road to the Seattle Kraken 6-4. They got out to a 2-0, make that a 2-1 lead in the first period, but Seattle with 4 goals in the second and 1 more in the third to go on and hold on for the victory. The Devils victorious over the Ottawa Senators on the road 3-1. The Rangers victorious on the road to Detroit against the Red Wings 5-2. The Islanders, though, they fall on the road to the St. Louis Blues in overtime 1-0. Week 7 of the NFL kicked off last night between New Orleans and Denver. Fox News Radio's Joe Morgan has a recap.
Broncos head coach Sean Payton had a successful return to New Orleans. Payton's Broncos dominated the Saints, winning 33-10 on Thursday Night Football. Payton coached New Orleans for 15 years, leading them to a Super Bowl victory in the 2009 season. Denver rookie quarterback Bo Nix completed 16 of his 26 passing attempts for 164 yards, adding 75 on the ground as the Broncos improved to 4-3. For New Orleans, their slide continues. After starting the season 2-0, the banged-up Saints have now lost 5 straight games. Joe Morgan, Fox News.
And finally, to the world of college basketball, Virginia men's basketball coach Tony Bennett will announce his immediate retirement today, the school announced. Bennett, 55, was set to begin his 16th season with the Cavaliers in less than 3 weeks with the program's first game against Campbell on November 6th. And sources told ESPN that Bennett's decision to retire was not health-related. Mike Bradley, 92.7 and 98.5 WGMD Sports.
Broadcasting from the Heineke Car Care Center studio. It's your News Talk America on 92.7 WGMD. The Talk of Delmarva.
It's a true pleasure to be with you this evening. Amazing pleasure. And these days it's really a pleasure anywhere in New York without a
subpoena for my appearance.
You know, as much as that was a funny line last night in the Al Smith dinner, isn't it sad that President Trump, he can't even think about going back to New York without considering the fact that, every time I come back to my own home city and state, it's via a subpoena to appear. That's how badly this nation has tumbled, my friends. And here's another tidbit from last night's Al Smith dinner, which has not been addressed by the maggots in Marxist state media or any media outlet. And that is that Kamala the Commie, like Walter Mondale, President Trump pointed that out back in 1984, boycotted the Catholic fundraiser, which is the Al Smith dinner in New York City. And she decided, Kamala the Commie, after she was getting hammered for missing it, it's just, you miss this, and it just shows who your enemies really are. And Catholics are Kamala the Commie's enemy, obviously. She wants to force nuns to fund abortions and give abortions at Catholic hospitals and so forth. However, here's the situation. She decided, Kamala the Commie, after all the criticism, that she was going to pre-tape an appearance, a Zoom appearance, with the help of one of the maggots from Saturday Night Live, who's a buddy of hers, doing a skit on Catholic school structure and so forth, and how the nuns are very strict in Catholic schools. Well, it fell flat. All she was doing was just criticizing Catholics. So she had the opportunity to come on and say, you know what, I'm very sorry I couldn't be there, but I really support what the Al Smith dinner does every year. She didn't do that. She just continued to hammer Catholics like she hammered explorers to the New World back on Columbus Day just a couple of days ago. Now, Jeffrey Lord's going to be joining us. I want to play this audio here. This was Kamala Harris's appearance on the Fox News channel with Brett Baird just a couple of days ago. Here it is.
Democrats voted. Donald Trump, 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 and Donald Trump, Donald Trump.
President Biden had a fundraiser debate stage.
Let's go back to Donald Trump, Donald Trump, Donald Trump, Donald Trump.
Jeffrey's shaking his head. Jeffrey Lord, our good friend, is shaking his head. Jeffrey is the former advisor to President Reagan, associate editor of the American Spectator, frequent contributor to Newsmax, and host of the Word of the Lord podcast, and a very good friend to this radio station and yours truly. Jeffrey, you're shaking your head, but why did she bother going on Fox at all if it was going to just frustrate Brett Baer, who I'm not a Brett Baer fan ordinarily, but he did an excellent job, I thought, very professional. Why did she bother going on if she was going to stonewall him and make it all about Donald Trump? What say you, sir?
Well, you know, one of the things I think we've learned about her and her campaign is they don't have their act together. They're not very bright when it comes to the, P's and Q's of conducting a serious presidential campaign.
Well, you're saying they're amateurish. Is that what you're saying, Jeffrey?
Yeah. That's a very good word for it. And it was on display. I mean, Brett, God bless him, is asking her substantive questions, and everything keeps coming back to Donald Trump. He's asking about policy that is, in fact, instituted by the Biden-Harris administration, of which she is the vice president, and she blames Donald Trump for being in politics. I
think she blames Donald Trump for living. She blames him for living, Jeffrey, I think, at the outset, right?
Right. When one of the things that I certainly have learned, and good Lord, you can learn this running a campaign for city council, let alone president, but you need to know what you're doing. And it is very clear to me that neither she nor her campaign staff have a serious idea of what they're doing in her campaign, which is why they keep screwing up all the time. And, the really dangerous part of all this is, let's just suppose for the sake of the argument that she does get elected. Then she's facing Vladimir Putin and the mullahs and and
Xi Jinping
and all that sort of thing. They're going to take one look at her. I'm sure they already have and decided, oh, yeah, please win.
Well, do you remember when she was on the world stage after the Ukraine war broke out, and she was standing next to the president of Poland, and she was asked a question about helping Ukraine or providing aid to Ukraine, and her response was she was just overwhelmed by the question, a friend in need is a friend indeed. That's what we can expect with respect to foreign affairs if she was ever sent to the White House. Right?
And, you know, one of the things I've noticed, I've had the last 3 nights I've been out at various events, one where I was speaking in a nearby county and others, 2 others, both supporting our congressman here, Scott Perry.
Right.
And he had as his guest Congressman Byron Donalds.
Oh, I love Florida. Byron Donalds. He is. I've never met him, but are you impressed by Byron Donalds?
Oh,
Jeffrey?
yeah. I think he's got a serious future here.
Yeah.
But one of the things that was remarked, and it caused everybody to burst out laughing, was I think it was Byron who stood up and said, "I come from a middle-class background." And absolutely everybody went nuts. They knew exactly what he was referring to. And, I mean, this has become a trademark of hers, and not a good one.
Not in a good way, no. Nobody believes she was ever middle class. Jeffrey, let me get to the first question. One of our producers, Eric from Seaford, Delaware, asks, how do you think Trump is trending with the polls in most swing states? Well, let's go. Let's talk about Pennsylvania, because I think all roads lead to Pennsylvania. Jeffrey, your thoughts? How is President Trump doing? You know, I sent you a list of points that I wanted to touch on. What about Scott Perry? We still have to maintain control of the House, and we need to get control of the Senate. I keep hearing that McCormick is 10 points behind Bob Casey. Do you believe that to be the case, sir?
Oh, I think it's closer than that.
Okay.
And one of the things that I would say, I mean, Dave was right here in my home county 2 nights ago.
Right.
All of them, Dave, Scott, President Trump, they're all working their fingers to the bone on this. And one of the things, and I may have said this to you before, but I think it's worth repeating, in 1980, the various state Republican parties around the country couldn't convince their so-called A-list candidates to run for the U.S. Senate.
Right.
Because they thought, well, I'll lose and I'll ruin my career, and I want to, so I should wait until a later time. So they picked their B and C list candidates to run for the Senate. Well, unbeknownst to them at that point, on election night, along comes the Reagan landslide, and the next morning, all those B and C listers were United States senators-elect.
And you know, one of those senators, I lived in New York, was a local politician that the Democrats hated. His name was Alphonse D'Amato.
Exactly.
Alphonse D'Amato, they knew he was known as Senator Pothole, and he was carried into the Senate, which the Republicans took control of in 1980, as you know, Jeffrey. And he was an outstanding senator for the state of New York, known as Senator Pothole. He lost his re-election bid to Chucky Schumer, and we all know how that's gone.
Yeah, it was noticeable. If you saw the Al Smith dinner.
Chuck wasn't too happy last night, was he?
There was old Chuck sitting right next to the podium. Yeah, he didn't look thrilled.
No, he did not. No, he not. Well, it's all with Chuck. It's all about making threats to the Supreme Court. Jeffrey, according to Bob and Lewes, and I agree with him on that, he says you are a superstar on Newsmax. There you go. I'll let you wallow in that for just a moment, Jeffrey. Do you think Fox is moving right again to regain the market share? Are you appearing on Fox News again? You are a Newsmax contributor, and I think you're pretty happy there, right, Jeffrey?
Yeah, I am indeed, and I am booked next for tomorrow, I believe, right before the Trump rally, and possibly, if time permits, after the Trump rally. But and as a matter of fact, I think, I could be wrong, but I think that rally is over here in Lancaster, Pennsylvania.
Okay. Yeah.
Which is where I went to college at Franklin and Marshall. It's Lancaster is, the heart of Lancaster. The city of Lancaster is the heart of Lancaster County, which is rural and very, very conservative. Lots of Amish folks there.
Yes, yes, sir.
It's that, when I was in college there in the long ago, in 1970, it was, one of the off-year congressional election things. And President Nixon came to Lancaster to campaign for then Senator Hugh Scott, who was the Republican Senate leader and was under real challenge. So Nixon flies into the Lancaster airport. I went out with my other F&M college Republicans. And there is Nixon landing in Marine One, the helicopter. And I look over in the crowd, and there's Amish guys in horse and buggy with the straw hats, the whole 9 yards.
But did they have those triangle reflectors on the back of the buggies?
Yes, it was an amazing sight to see. Sort of, 20th century versus 15th century, if you will.
That's funny.
But they were there, and they were Nixon supporters, so they showed up.
That is, what a funny, that's why I love having you on, your historical perspective, the stories you tell, Jeffrey. Our audience loves it. We've got a question from Wolf, our producer Wolf. Are there any parallels, do you believe, between the Harris campaign and the failure of the Hillary Clinton campaign? It seems to me both campaigns are making the same mistake, and that is degrading middle-class Americans. Jeffrey, what say you?
Yeah, in Hillary's case, it was the deplorables.
Right.
And, I just think this is a sort of interesting historical shift. The Republican Party used to be called snidely the Country Club Party.
No more.
And, Democrats were the party of working class Americans, blue collars, etc. Well, what's happened gradually, and I think this began with President Reagan, the parties switched. And we began to hear in 1980 about Reagan Democrats.
Yep.
Who were working class folks in Detroit, in the Michigan area. And
Jeffrey, we started hearing about them on election night when the returns were coming in. It was the Democrats that were calling them Reagan Democrats, correct?
Yes, that's right. So now I think we have a situation here where, the mindset of Democrat elites is just like Hillary Clinton. They look at these people as the deplorables. And the deplorables don't like it, and they're aware of the game that's being played. So these are the folks who are showing up in spades for Donald Trump in Pennsylvania and elsewhere. And I think that's going to be a very interesting thing to see when we get to election night.
A comment by Colonel Michelle Williams, U.S. Air Force retired 30-year Air Force veteran, in the chat room. Says that Hillary and Kamala are very unlikable. In politics, above all, Jeffrey, you need to be likable. Isn't that correct? You've been in a long time in that business.
That's one of the things that President Reagan had going for him.
Right.
He was a very, very likable guy. Behind the gloss of being a Hollywood movie star, he was one lovely human being and had a great sense of humor, very self-deprecating.
Right.
He was fun to be with in person when you worked for him. Good sense of humor. I took my parents in to meet him in the Oval Office, and we chat, and he does the boss thing and more or less tries to convince my parents that it's just him and me winning the Cold War. And
you were the one that kept Gorbachev in line, right, Jeffrey?
That's it. That's it exactly. And so when we're done, well, let's do a family picture. So, and I have it over here, the four of us standing there together in the Oval Office. Then when we're done, my parents go out first, and I turned around and said, "Thank you, Mr. President." And he says, "Did I do all right?"
Well,
yes, sir, Mr. President, you did more than fine.
You brought up the Al Smith dinner earlier, and President Reagan was there at the Waldorf Astoria in 1984 for the Al Smith dinner. Walter Mondale was a no-show. Do you believe it hurt? I mean, obviously, the only state that Mondale carried was his home state of Minnesota. Did that hurt Mondale, do you think, not going to the Al Smith dinner that night? Jeffrey, what say you?
Yes, I think it did. And here's the thing. is that if you're running to be president of the United States, not to mention if you are the president of the United States,
right,
there's more involved in the job than just, the whatever constitutional responsibilities you feel you have. You need to be a leader of America, and that means all of the cultural and symbolic things. A small one, going to the ballpark in Washington to throw out the first ball of the season.
Right.
The Al Smith dinner. These are things where the president or presidential candidates are expected to sort of carry on the tradition. I mean, good Lord, Al Smith was the Democratic presidential nominee. He was governor of New York. He was presidential nominee in 1928.
Yeah.
That's
right.
A long time ago, right? But ever since, this has become a big deal. So if you don't do it, you in essence are seen, I think, by a lot of Americans as thumbing your nose at American tradition, and they want a president, whether it's a Republican or a Democrat,
of all the people,
stand up for it. Yes.
I'm not sure all Americans want a president for all the people. I think that they're the way that things have been politicized, I think people are okay with a president of just for some and not all. One of our producers, Eric, said he agrees with you that Kamala's campaign is very unorganized. Jeffrey, I got to get to a break. Please stay with us. Jeffrey Lord, our good friend, is joining us here on Your News Talk America, Digital Interactive Friday. So much to talk about, and we will be talking more with Jeffrey Lord. More questions for him as well. When Your News Talk America, Digital Interactive, yournewstalk.com. Your News Talk. I had to think about that for a second, Jeffrey. I messed up. Your News Talk. Is it real? No, it's realnewstalk.com. I don't know what the heck I'm saying. Realnewstalk.com. Sorry, boss. Back in just a moment.
This weather report is served to you from Ra's Restaurant, voted the best of Delaware for Indian cuisine downstate. View more at roslewis.com.
Here's a look at your Delmarva forecast. Ample sunshine expected this afternoon with daytime highs approaching 70. Winds out of the north, 8 to 15 miles per hour. Clear skies again tonight. Lows level off around 41. Bright sunshine expected tomorrow. High temperatures reach up to 72. Dry with temperatures a bit above average Sunday and Monday, and highs from the mid-70s to the upper 70s. I'm meteorologist Paul Trombley from the Talk of Delmarva Weather Center, inland. Currently 58.
Broadcasting from the Meineke Car Care Center studio. It's Your News Talk America on 92.7 WGMD. The Talk of Delmarva.
Views and opinions expressed are those of the hosts, callers, and guests, and not necessarily the staff, management, ownership, advertisers, or sponsors of WGMD.
Hey, Donald Trump Jr. here. Central banks are buying gold at record amounts, and the trend is accelerating in 2024. They see the writing on the wall. The dollar is failing. Is gold the answer for you too? To find out, get a free info kit from Birch Gold Group by texting the word HEDGE to 989898. That's HEDGE to the number 989898 to get your free info kit on gold IRAs from Birch Gold, the only gold company I trust right now.
Message and data rates may apply.
Cybersecurity Awareness Month is in full swing, and LifeLock is here to spotlight the threat of phishing. Those sneaky scams designed to trick you into revealing your personal information. While staying alert is important, true protection goes beyond just awareness. That's where LifeLock steps in with comprehensive protection. LifeLock doesn't just warn you about suspicious activity. LifeLock monitors your personal info and resolves identity theft issues if they arise. Take control of your security. Start your 30-day free trial at lifelock.com. Use promo code NEWS. Terms apply.
Hi, Dr. Michelle Parsons here. Here at Rehoboth Medical Spa, we have been treating our patients with a new class of medications for weight loss, including Saxenda, Wegovy, and Mounjaro. All of these prescription medications have been extremely effective at curbing appetite and helping our patients easily lose pounds that they have not been able to lose before at affordable prices. We make it easy for you to lose weight and improve your health. Book your free consultation today at 302-227-1079. Rehoboth Medical Spa, where the doctor is the difference.
Rehoboth. The next big idea is little. Do you need a place to live? Housing prices got you down? Here is your solution. A turnkey one-bedroom home from $65,999. Perfect for a guest house, in-law suite, office, gym, vacation rentals, and more. Other models available. Come and see for yourself. 35151 Roxana Road, Frankfort, Delaware. Call 302-272-1534 or visit yourlittleliving.com for more information. You dream it and we'll create it.
Tune in this Monday afternoon after the 4:30 news as WGMD's featured guest will be Jim Fritz of All American Mortgage, specializing in reverse mortgages and keeping you up to speed with Delmarva's ever-changing housing market this Monday afternoon after the 4:30 news.
The Atlantic Hotel opened in 1895 in the heart of historic Berlin. 17 turn-of-the-century hotel rooms are available to tour, or shop Berlin's stores, have dinner, and spend the night. They also offer an intimate ballroom. The Atlantic Hotel, Restaurant, and Bar proudly supports this station.
Broadcasting from the Panelists Car Care Center studio. It's your News Talk America on 92.7 WGMD. The Talk of Delmarva.
You're listening. There we go. You're listening to Your News Talk America. It's realnewstalk.com, my friends. I promise you that. It's realnewstalk.com. Right, Jeffrey? Jeffrey, you're a lifelong Pennsylvania resident. In 1979, 3 Mile Island got close to a meltdown. It's been closed since then. This country has been on a no nuclear power foothold for years. All of a sudden, industry needs electrical power that the Democrat Party doesn't want to build power plants. They don't want us to have, and we can't have nukes. But now Microsoft comes along. They buy 3 Mile Island. They're going to put it back online. What do Pennsylvanians say about this, Jeffrey Lord?
Yeah, well, it's getting a lot of attention. And I should tell you geographically, I live in Camp Hill, which is suburban Harrisburg.
Yep.
And I'm about 3 miles from downtown Harrisburg. To get there, you have to drive over the Harvey Taylor Bridge and over the Susquehanna. And when you are on that bridge and look to your right, you can see the 3 Mile Island cooling towers right down the river. They're about 5 miles away.
Wow.
Suffice to say, it is always a very visible reminder, not to mention that the Harrisburg International Airport, as we grandly call it, is on the banks of the Susquehanna right across from 3 Mile Island. So coming or going on a plane, you will see them. You can't miss them. So now the news that they're being renovated and all that, and I think there is a little unease about the whole thing, but on they go.
But again, we were told, the Democrats have said no nuclear power, you can't have nuclear power, but then again, a woke company like Microsoft, it's no problem.
Right, which says to me, among other things, that all the rules are for somebody else, and if when it comes to them, meaning, the elites of the day, well, things are different. And
no question.
Things are different here for Microsoft. And I don't really have any problem with it. I think they should get on with it. And I don't know anything about nuclear power. I just would hope that everything is cleaned up as much as it can be and move on.
Let me get to a couple more questions from our producers for Jeffrey Lord. Jeffrey, the killing of Sinwar, the confirmation that he had been killed, how big a deal is this, do you think?
I think it's a big deal. It's a big deal. When something like that happens, there is, I don't care what conflict you're involved with, there is a psychological effect to that side and whatever side that is, and et cetera. When Prime Minister Yitzhak Rabin was assassinated, there were reverberations to that. Mm-hmm. And this isn't just in the Middle East. This is in any conflict. So I am sure there are going to be reverberations to this, and what they are and how deep they are and what does this do to change the picture. I think I saw in one of the chyrons on Newsmax this morning that Prime Minister Netanyahu says the war is going on.
Yes, he did. He said it's not over yet. We have more victories. But boy, they certainly have taken a lot of bad guys off the board, the Israelis, haven't they?
Yes, they have. Yes, they have. And, all of this, I think, is just shameful in a sense, in the sense that, good Lord, leave the poor Israelis alone. Just let them do what everybody else wants to do, have the freedom to build their own country. And instead, right from the get-go, I mean, when you think that Jews have been in that part of the world for thousands of years, and now everybody's saying, oh, well, they were only here since 1948. I mean, that's just bunk.
That is bunk.
You know?
Jeffrey, I agree with you. It's revisionist history at its worst. Final question for our good friend Jeffrey Lord. Our producer, Bob in Lewes, talked about the successes of President Reagan ending the Cold War. President Trump has promised to end quickly the wars in Ukraine, the Middle East, and the Far East. Do you think that that's possible? Trump can do that? We had peaceful 4 years when he was in office between 2017 and 2021. What say you, Jeffrey Lord, on President Trump's prowess? Go ahead.
I think he can, and for exactly the same reason that President Reagan won the Cold War. President Reagan's motto, if you'll remember, was peace through strength.
Right.
And he brought into, he built up the Defense Department, the defense budget. He came up with the idea of the Strategic Defense Initiative.
Yep.
All of this put such pressure on the Soviet Union. They didn't have the resources to keep up, and they collapsed, and peace was at hand.
If you remember, Jimmy Carter nixed the B-1 bomber, and when Reagan took, I remember President Reagan, I remember what defense plan he was at. I remember him putting on that B-1 bomber hat and signing the appropriations to build the B-1 bomber. Remember that, Jeffrey?
I do, and I remember specifically I was at the White House when President Gorbachev came and signed a treaty limiting nuclear weapons. It was a big deal, and it was thanks to President Reagan's Peace Through Strength program.
Jeffrey, thank you so much again. You're booked on Newsmax tomorrow afternoon during before and after, I guess, President Trump's rally in Pennsylvania.
Exactly.
Jeffrey, thank you so much. It's so good having you on the program, and we'll talk to you very soon, my friend.
Okay, Jake. Thanks a lot.
Thank you. You're listening to Your News Talk America. Now, the news doesn't have to be always bad. We can look at the lighter side of things, and we will with our next panelist, Matt Purple, in just a moment. Stay with us.
Here is the marine forecast from the Delmarva Weather Center. A smoke advisory is currently in effect for our area waters. We'll have winds out the north today at 15 to 20 knots, gusting up to 25 with seas at 5 to 7 feet. As for tides in Rehoboth, the next tide's high tide at 8:49 a.m., the next low tide's at 3:08 p.m., and we'll have another high tide at 9:11 p.m. And in Cambridge, the next tide's low tide at 8:16 a.m., the next high tide's at 5:21 p.m., and we'll have another low tide at 12:15 a.m.
Hi, this is the Rehoboth Foodie. Join me on Saturday afternoons from 2 to 4 on WGMD 92.7, the talk, or rather, the food of Delmarva.
This WGMD Fox Business Update is brought to you by Sussex Environmental Consultants. For a healthy home, call 302-947-1810.
I'm Jerry Willis, and this is the Fox Business Report. Stocks have been trading mixed. The Dow started the session weaker after another record close. American Express reported a mostly better than expected quarter, though shares are losing ground following the stock rising to a record yesterday. Netflix shares up nearly 10% after its upbeat quarter. Its ad-supported service brought in more subscribers. Reuters says Spirit Aerosystems will furlough 700 workers for 21 days because Boeing's machinist strike is dragging on. The lookout is eating into Spirit Aerosystems' cash. Spirit says it will need to furlough other staff if the strike continues. CVS shares down nearly 7%. It is lowering expectations for its business and is replacing its CEO. That's your Fox Business Report. I'm Ginny Cosola. Invested in you.
Wow, you look fantastic. I love all the sparkle. It's your fault. You introduced me to jewelry television. I can't stop watching. Right, the prices are amazing. I know, there are so many different styles, and the color gemstone jewelry, are you kidding me? Gorgeous. And did you notice JTV also has gifts for men? I got Jake an Invicta watch that he loves.
New JTV customers receive $40 off their next purchase when they shop jtv.com/radio.
Who are you texting? I'm not. I'm shoppingjtv.com.
Broadcasting from the Lincicome Car Care Center studio. It's your News Talk America on 92.7 WGMD. The Talk of Delmarva.
It's a true pleasure to be with you this evening. Amazing pleasure. And these days it's really a pleasure anywhere in New York without a subpoena for my appearance.
As I mentioned earlier, it's pretty sad. President Trump, born and raised in New York. New York was his home until he was driven out. A little humor at the Al Smith dinner last night. President Trump feeling fortunate that he didn't have to return to New York because of a subpoena. But it's hard to find humor in all that's going on right now. But we're going to introduce you to a panelist who can find some humor in all that's going on right now. His name is Matt Purple. Matt is the author of Decline from the Top: Snapshots from America's Crisis and Glimmers of Hope. As long as it's not joy, Matt. Matt is an editor and journalist who has written for The Spectator, The American Conservative, National Review, The Washington Examiner, and many other magazines and newspapers. He's a native of Avon, Connecticut, and a graduate of Catholic University of America. He lives in Alexandria, Virginia, with his wife Claire and their 2 children. Matt, so glad to have you on the broadcast this morning. If we ever need to lighten the load of most Americans, it's this period right now, right?
My goodness, yeah. I mean, the stakes feel so high. We've had 2 attempted presidential assassinations in the past 3 months. We've had really just a political climate that feels very, very toxic and very out of control. We have inflation that is hitting the average American in their pocketbook. We have, a sense that our politics may soon cease to be a democracy, or something big may change. Polls find Americans are increasingly concerned about that. So there's a lot of people are bummed out right now. People are kind of staggering down the street to the therapist. They're not entirely sure where the country is going to be in 10 years, where it's going to go. And I think trying to find the humor, the bright spots in that can be difficult to do. But God knows we need to lighten up a little bit, right? I mean, the only antidote to that kind of gloom is laughter and is good humor. So it's good to try to find it.
It's hard for me to find comedy should be a release for all of us, but comedians today are terrible. I mean, I grew up with the greatest comedians of all time, and today that brand of comedian to me just is not funny. The late night talk shows are terrible. They've turned into political hack operations. Maybe Greg Gutfeld might be the funniest guy on TV right now. The ratings of his show certainly show that he is. But where can we find humor in this steep decline in America, Matt?
Certainly not from the late night hosts. And it's weird to go back and watch those old Johnny Carson shows because it's so apolitical. It's just the bias is towards not left or right, but what's funny. And he's sitting around with like Frank Sinatra, smoking cigarettes. It's such a difference in tone. Or even somebody like Jon Stewart back in 1999 before his bias started to come out. It's just a very different, humor had a different purpose back then, and the purpose was to actually make you laugh. And I think the problem now is that comedians have become kind of high priests of liberalism.
Great point.
Their job is to recite the dogma, to shoot down the heretics, Donald Trump and his followers and so on, all the pre-approved acceptable targets. And, I watched Kamala Harris's interview with Howard Stern. Howard Stern maybe he was kind of funny back in the day. I guess that's a matter of debate.
Howard Stern was very funny in the early part of his career. I used to listen to him in the afternoons when he was on 66 WNBC. You're from Connecticut, so you are aware of that radio station. And then something happened to him. He just joined the political hack mob, and that's what he is right now, Matt. Would you agree?
It was pure flattery. I mean, it was just pure throne sniffing. There was no humor in it, let alone any kind of tough questions. So, I think that's very emblematic of where we've gone.
So your book, Decline from the Top: Snapshots from America's Crisis and Glimmers of Hope. By laughing at ourselves, this country, I believe that's how we can find glimmers of hope. I grew up with a program called All in the Family. I watched it from day one. And this country, we laughed at our own racial tendencies, and it helped various groups to at least talk and debate with one another. Today, a show like All in the Family, and most of the projects similar to All in the Family would never even see the light of day. They would not be on television. There was no network or no production company that would even approach someone to fund the pilot for an All in the Family today. How can we get back to the marketplace of ideas? That's what Judge Napolitano called it on this show yesterday, because the marketplace is out of business. What do you say?
What is so remarkable about that show is that Norman Lear, who produced it, was obviously a liberal.
Oh, big time. And so was Carol O'Connor. Carol O'Connor was a card-carrying commie, in my opinion, and so were the rest of them. But go ahead.
Yeah, Rob Reiner, who played Meathead. And yet somehow you could be a conservative and watch that show and still find it funny and still not find, that views were being rammed down your throat in a way that was uncomfortable. Norman Lear was a producer for a little while on South Park, which kind of came at things from the right a little bit more, but it had the same effect. I mean, it made a point, it made an argument without feeling like partisan hackery. And I think the problem now is that we feel like the stakes are so high that to say anything nice about the other side or to say anything humanizing about the other side is completely off the table, and especially for the left, which views the Trump.
Well, we feel we're surrendering to the other side if we say anything complimentary about them. I'll be honest with you, Matt. That's where I'm coming from. They don't say anything nice about us, do they?
No, they don't. And it just creates this escalation effect where you feel like, okay, I better just bunker down on my side, and I can't. And it's tearing us apart, and it's really unfortunate. And you see it more on the left because they have more cultural power, more cultural control. And it leads conservatives to feel marginalized, I think.
Well, I think we are. I mean, we are marginalized, and that's why this country is right now. It's just split. Humor can bring us back together again, but if this country can't laugh at itself, Matt, is that possible? Do you think?
I don't know, because the places where humor goes out the window are the times and places when the political stakes are so high that nobody feels like they can laugh at anything because nothing is funny anymore. In the Weimar Republic, there wasn't a huge amount of humor, both because they were persecuting the humorists and because everything did not feel funny. It felt dangerous. It felt on the edge. This is a common theme throughout our history. And I'm not in any way saying we're the Weimar Republic, but I think we've got to find a way to take those stakes down a little bit, to be able to say, okay, at the end of the day, talk about Ronald Reagan before. Ronald Reagan knew how to laugh at liberals.
Self-deprecating laughter he was very good at that.
In a way that still felt inclusive and still felt fun.
Right.
I think we've got to find a way occasionally to leave politics at the door and to be able to do what Reagan did so well.
One of our producers has asked this question of you. As a Catholic University of America grad, do you know Dr. Jacqueline Leary Wausau?
I don't, but I was talking to your producer before. He's a fellow CUA alum. I think he got an architecture degree. So that's
that's right. Our
boss.
No,
I don't know that professor.
He likes to build things. Oh, okay. They answered that question. From Eric, our producer, is cancel culture a contributor of the demise of comedy in America, Matt? That's a great question. What say you, sir?
Yeah, 1,000%. I'm not sure it's a contributor. It's also, I think, a kind of end game, because if we don't feel like we can laugh at ourselves or at anybody, especially if we don't feel like we can laugh at targets that aren't pre-approved, then the next step outward is that we're going to try to punish you if you do try to laugh at those targets. If you do go in that direction. And
right.
In Howard Stern's interview of Kamala Harris, for example, he said, I'm uncomfortable when Saturday Night Live makes fun of you because I feel like the stakes are too high. And
that coming from a guy who used to make fun of everyone.
Everybody. But we've lost that. Yeah, sorry, go ahead.
No, I'm just going to say, Matt, our producer Eric says Harris is her own comedian. What about that laugh? That just turns people off. It doesn't make them, that cackle, so to speak.
It's a laugh thoroughly devoid of humor, which almost feels appropriate for the time being, right? It's a laugh that I think more expresses her own lack of comfort, and also I think sometimes her own just cruelty. I mean, sometimes there's reports that she laughed at a prisoner or laughed at a convict when she was in a courtroom with him. She laughed at the parents of truant students when she was a DA in San Francisco. They were getting put in prison under a new law she had passed. She was laughing at them. So yeah, I think there's It's very symbolic of the times, right? The Kamala Harris laugh.
Our big cat, our producer, says it's not a two-way street. Kamala's video last night and Whitmer's, the governor of Michigan's video with Doritos mocking the reception of Holy Communion were anti-Catholic. Why is this okay? Well, the skit, I don't know if you saw the skit that Kamala zoomed in last night to the Al Smith dinner, Matt, but that I don't know what she was thinking, but that was a direct insult to Catholicism as well. That's two bad ones on the part of the Democrat communists. That's what I call them in 1 week. As a Roman Catholic yourself, that doesn't help Catholic voters to get warm and fuzzy or have anything funny to think about or like to think about when it comes to Kamala Harris and her party, right?
I'll tell you this much. I love the Al Smith dinner because I think it represents the best of Catholicism, which is that in the midst of a very heated campaign, you bring the two candidates together in a kind of urbane environment with some alcohol and whatnot, and you get them to just laugh. You get them to tell jokes and to set aside all of that for one day for, a couple of hours. I think that's incredibly valuable. And Trump showed up, and I didn't see his entire appearance. I was reading some of his jokes this morning. Some of them were pretty funny. And she did not show up except for that phoned-in appearance like you were talking about, which was just not humorous, but somehow managed to insult. It's almost like identity politics has just consumed everything, right? Like
no question about it.
We're insulting the very identity we're supposed to be working with at this dinner. It's kind of unreal.
In our chat room, Wolf says, humor is one of the most effective political tools politicians can't stand to be laughed at. Would you agree with that?
I think that the wrong politicians can't stand to be laughed at. I actually think that's a good question, because if a politician can't stand to be laughed at, that's evidence he probably shouldn't have power.
Good question. They shouldn't be in public life, right?
If your skin is that thin, and if you think that highly of yourself, then you don't, I think, have the awareness or the context that you need to wield political power. I think that can be a very dangerous thing if a politician doesn't.
Obama had a very thin skin. That is, everybody knows that. My friend, the book, and the author, Matt Purple, the author of Decline from the Top, Snapshots from America's Crisis and Glimmers of Hope. We need glimmers of hope. Remember, it's not about joy, it's glimmers of hope. Matt, I'd love to have you back on our Digital Interactive Friday again. You've been a great guest, and thank you so much for coming on this morning.
Anytime. Thank you so much.
Thank you. You're listening and watching Your News Talk America. Salute the troops, coming up in just a moment.
This WGMD Weather Report is brought to you by Arby's in Millsboro on Route 113 and Arby's in Lewes on Coastal Highway. Arby's, we have the meats.
Here's a look at your Delmarva forecast. Ample sunshine expected this afternoon with daytime highs approaching 70. Winds out of the north, 8 to 15 miles per hour. Clear skies again tonight. Lows level off around 41. Bright sunshine expected tomorrow. High temperatures reach up to 72. Dry with temperatures a bit above average Sunday and Monday, and highs from the mid-70s to the upper 70s. I'm meteorologist Paul Trombley from the Talk of Delmarva Weather Center, inland. Currently 58.
Broadcasting from the Carnegie Car Care Center studio. It's your News Talk America on 92.7 WGMD. The Talk of Delmarva.
Get ready for an unforgettable night at Haunted Harvest, a murder mystery on October 27th from 6 to 9 p.m. at Windmill Creek Vineyard and Winery in Berlin. For $65, you'll enjoy delicious appetizers, a complimentary glass of wine, and an exciting live performance by the Lower Shore Performing Arts Company. This interactive event promises an evening full of suspense, mystery, and fun. Tickets are limited and sales end on October 20th, so don't miss out. Reserve your spot now. Go online to oceancity.org.
Dive into a sea of flavor at the Surfing Crab Restaurant, where they've proudly served the best steamed crabs on Delmarva for 2 decades. Open Wednesday through Friday at 3 p.m., 12 p.m. on Saturday and Sunday. Indulgent crabs by the dozen. Or order an all-you-can-eat feast, including hush puppies, french fries, and homemade coleslaw. Located on Route 1 Lewes. Call for pricing and availability and to pre-order crabs before they sell out. 302-644-4448. The Surfing Crab, where every day is a celebration.
Are the shoes you wear every day helping or hurting your feet? Leave it to the professionals to find your perfect shoes. Hi, I'm Mary Beth Evans, owner of Rehoboth Beach Running Company. We offer a free total analysis of your feet and arches to determine the best shoes for maximum daily comfort. Our large inventory at Rehoboth Beach Running Company provides shoes for every speed. We're located at the Shops of the Cultured Pearl, 301 Rehoboth Avenue. Give us a call at 302-227-4848 or check us out online at runrb.com.
Hi, this is the Rehoboth Foodie. Join me this weekend and every weekend when WGMD, the talk of Delmarva, becomes the food of Delmarva from 2 until 4 on Saturday afternoons. I'll give you a behind-the-scenes peek at the food industry professionals who keep Delmarva eating. I'm right here on WGMD 92.7 FM, or you can listen from anywhere on your phone or computer at WGMD.com. Either way, it's a feast for the ears.
If you can't find your favorite Talk of Delmarva shows on the WGMD app, here's a tip. Download the WGMD app from the Apple Store or Google Play on your smartphone. Open the app and click on the red box on the upper left of the screen to reveal a pull-down menu. Click on Other Stations, then click on 92.7 or 98.5. Then enjoy your favorite shows from the Talk of Delmarva.
Every time you watch the Ravens game at the original Green Turtle in North Ocean City, you get a chance to win up to 3 pairs of game tickets. The original Green Turtle presents Ravens football on WGMD's 92.7, a Delmarva Ravens affiliate.
Salute the Troops is safely brought to you by your local gun tender, Stuart Jones at Delmarva Law Enforcement Supply.
Salute the Troops was pleased to learn that the Department of Defense has positively identified the remains of an Army pilot from Ohio who died when his plane was shot down over Germany during the Second World War. On May 29, 1944, First Lieutenant Carl Nesbitt was the pilot of a B-17 Flying Fortress bomber during a huge bombing mission over Leipzig, Germany. German fighters attacked the bomber's formation roughly 28 miles northeast of Leipzig, and the plane was shot down. 6 of the 10 crew members were able to escape the plane before it crashed near Horst, while Nesbitt and the rest were killed. Their bodies were believed to have been buried in a local cemetery, and following the end of the war, there was no evidence of Nesbitt being a prisoner of war or having survived being shot down. Nesbitt died at the age of 23. He hailed from Lima, Ohio. He was assigned to the 569th Bombardment Squadron, 390th Bombardment Group Heavy, 13 Bombardment Wing, 3rd Air Division, 8th Air Force. The American Graves Registration Command, which worked to recover fallen service members in Europe after the war, found the remains of a crew member buried in a cemetery in Horst during a search in September 1946. But after 1950, worsening diplomatic relations with the Soviet Union, which then controlled East Germany, prevented the AGRC from investigating further, and Nesbitt was declared non-recoverable on April 21st, 1953. In July 2012, an investigation team from the Joint POW-MIA Accounting Command, a DPAA predecessor, found the crash site and recovered evidence of a B-17 crash. In 2015, the landowner permitted DPAA to excavate, and the work was done during the summer of 2019. Crews recovered possible material evidence and possible remains, which were eventually sent to a lab at Offutt Air Force Base in Nebraska. Nesbitt was accounted for last September, but his family was only recently advised. Scientists used dental and anthropological analysis and other DNA analysis and circumstantial and material evidence to identify Nesbitt's remains. He will be buried May 15th in Annville, Pennsylvania. Salute the Troops honors the ultimate sacrifice during the Second World War of U.S. Army Air Corps First Lieutenant Carl Nesbitt. For without Lieutenant Nesbitt's courage in flying bombing missions over Germany, this nation could not this nation would never have remained free. May this grateful nation never forget the courage from the cockpit of First Lieutenant Michael Nesbitt. Welcome home, Lieutenant. Salute the Troops would like to acknowledge the Military Times for their contribution to this Salute the Troops segment. For Salute the Troops, I'm Jake Smith.
Delmarva Law Enforcement Supply welcomes all, not just law enforcement. Visit and sit with Stuart to find the perfect custom firearm, ammo, apparel, gun safes, hunting gear, accessories, or to browse and find the perfect WeatherTech gear. Serving and saluting Delmarva for almost 2 decades. You can find them on Iron Branch Road in Dagsboro. Open Monday through Saturday. Just look for the banner that says Guns. Support your local gun tender today.
Broadcasting from the Panelists Car Care Center studio. It's your News Talk America on 92.7 WGMD. The Talk of Delmarva.
92.7 WGMD Rehoboth Beach. And 98.5 WUSX Seaford. The Talk of Delmarva.
Record. I'm Lisa Brady, Fox News. North Carolina's Board of Elections